Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing a ranking episode. So I'm going to be ranking all of the episodes in Season 2 of Shudder's Creepshow television series. So I did this for Season 1, and I figured why not do it for Season 2 now that Season 3 has just started. So I wanted to give a couple overall opinions about the season, and then get into the rankings. I thought it was interesting that we started off with a live-action creep, and then as the episodes progressed in the season, it turned into no live-action creep. We just got an animated version. I don't know necessarily why they decided to make that change, but I guess it's okay. I thought that the animated intros were more like the comic book, and I did appreciate that, and I think that they could do a little bit more than what they could do with the live action, but I just don't know why they made that change abruptly in the middle of the season when they could have just completely did the entire second season that way. I do appreciate that they did have a bigger budget this season compared to the first season, but I think one of my biggest issues with the Creepshow show is that it's small in scope. Each segment really only has a few locations. I just think that it might be a little too small in scope. I still feel like they're trying to figure out the budgetary issues with the show, and you can kind of see how the budget is very limiting in what they can do and what they can produce. And then one of the biggest controversies with this season was one of the segments was gone. It has not been aired. It had Marilyn Manson in it, who at the time had a bunch of domestic abuse allegations, and some really bad allegations came out against him. The creators at Shudder and at Creepshow decided that this episode would not air. I assume that this episode had already been filmed, so I guess that it's out there, but I find it highly likely that it'll never be released to the public, which I think is a bit of a shame, not because I want to see Marilyn Manson or I want him to get recognition for this role, but I think that it is a shame for all of the other people that were involved in that episode to not be able to see their hard work on the screen and get notoriety for what they did. But I guess with time, maybe they'll put it on the Blu-ray release or something like that. It wouldn't be the first time that DVD or Blu-ray releases have gotten episodes that have never aired before. So I guess we'll find out. I don't think that it's been announced yet, so we'll see. I do also want to mention that I'm iffy about how I felt about the references in this season. I feel like this is a lot more of a referential season. There's a lot more episodes that have specific horror references in it, and I feel like there is a fine line between referencing something and ripping something off. And I will say that I think that a couple of these episodes go straight into the territory of ripping it off. And I think that's very unfortunate. Does it change how I feel about the episode? A little bit, but these episodes are ranked in my enjoyment of the episode, so you'll see when I get to the references, I'll mention them and how I kind of felt about them in the episode. But now let's get into my ranking for Season 2 of Creepshow. So coming in at number 9, we have Pesticide. This was an episode that I didn't enjoy. It's basically where this pest control guy is hired to get rid of some pests, and those pests happen to be people. And so I just didn't enjoy this episode. It was just kind of a little too weird for me. Coming in at number 8, we have Pipe Screams. And this episode revolves around a landlord at an apartment complex who calls a plumber to help fix the pipes. And the plumber's like, these pipes are made of lead, and she's like, I am basically going to blackmail you. I picked the plumbing company that had the worst reviews, so basically it's your word against mine, and I will take you down if you don't fix these pipes. I don't really care what you do. And so there's something living inside the pipes. This episode reminded me a lot of Pesticide. I just wasn't really into it, and the only redeeming factor in this episode was that Barbara Crampton was in it, and I'm not super familiar with Barbara Crampton, but I really enjoyed her performance, and I think that I probably should look into some other things that she's been in, because I really enjoyed her performance in this. Coming in at number 7, we have a sibling rivalry. This was another really weird episode, and it was a little bit, they tried to do a little bit more lightheartedness in this episode, and I didn't really feel that it worked too well. So basically it has Molly Ringwald in it, who is playing a school counselor, and she has a girl in her office, and they're talking, and the girl's like, "My brother tried to kill me." Molly Ringwald's like, "What? You need to tell me about this." And then the girl continues telling the story, and she's like telling all these like random parts, and then Molly Ringwald's like, "But tell me about how your brother tried to kill you." And it was just kind of weird, and I didn't really like it. I thought the effects were a little bit wonky in this episode as well, and overall just wasn't my cup of tea. Coming in at number 6, we have Within the Walls of Madness. And this is a kind of like a Lovecraft meets The Thing, and it's a little bit more Lovecraft than The Thing, but it's very similar. The Thing is based off of a Lovecraft type work. So we have that, and it basically is a ripoff of The Thing, where these people are at a research base in like the Arctic or something like that, and the weird things start happening with like a tentacle monster, blah blah blah. Yeah, I thought that this episode was okay, but everything in this episode I've seen in other places, and I've seen it done better in other places, so it's a bit unfortunate. It was still not too bad. Coming in at number 5, we have The Right Snuff. And this is about 2 astronauts who are, I believe this is a period piece, and they're going up into space, and they get a call from Houston saying that they have a new mission, and the mission is to make contact with this alien race. One of the astronauts is very jealous of the other astronaut for getting everything, and the Houston chooses the other astronaut to continue to be the first one to make contact with this alien race. And we have Breckin Meyer in this, who was very interesting. I was not expecting to see him in this show, so that was cool. And this was directed by Joe Lynch. So coming in at number 4, we have Model Kid, and this revolves around a 12-year-old boy who is kind of bullied and made fun of for liking monsters and horror movies. And his mom is really ill, and his uncle and aunt move in to help out with things around the house. Unfortunately, his mom takes a turn for the worse, and he's left to deal with his aunt and uncle, and his uncle is very abusive and really just kind of mean, and we see some really interesting things happen with that. So I liked that this had a bit of references in it to classic monsters, and it's lower on my list because I just don't like the uncle character. And I mean, you're not supposed to like him, but I overall just thought that there were a couple more that were a little bit better. So Model Kid did seem a little bit like a reference to the movie Fade to Black and the character in that movie, and maybe like a prequel to Fade to Black, if you will. Now, coming in at number 3, we have Night of the Living Dead show, which I was a little disappointed in this episode specifically because I thought that it was going to have to do with like a late night show, a talk show, but it had nothing to do with that. So I think that they could have probably had a little bit of a better name for this episode. But this is about a couple who the husband is played by Jake Long and the wife is Darcy Carden, who I really do enjoy her and Jake Long as well. But Jake Long his character is building a pod, an immersion pod. So you can go into any movie that you want and immerse yourself into this movie. And so the 2 movies that we specifically see in this are Night of the Living Dead and Horror Express, which I've never heard of Horror Express, but I have heard of Night of the Living Dead. I did look it up. These are both public domain movies. I guess they used that because they were free. You could just use them. This was the longest episode. It was a full episode runtime for one story. And I believe that that was probably due to the missing episode, Marilyn Manson episode. But basically they just filled the runtime with literal clips of the Horror Express movie. Like, we're watching the movie play out. That is kind of where I'm getting at when I say that I felt like the season is doing a lot of rip-offs. Like, they're playing full entire scenes of this movie without the characters in it. Justin Long's character and Darcy Carden's character are not in a lot of the scenes that they're just playing out of this movie. And so I did have a little bit of an issue with that. I did think that the episode itself was enjoyable, but I'm at a fine line with how I felt about the basic ripoff of Horror Express. Even if it is a public domain title, I don't think that they should have done that. Coming in at number 2, we have Television of the Dead. And this is another one of the episodes. I really enjoyed it, but I did think that it was kind of a ripoff of a lot of different things, specifically Bob Ross. They have a character, the character's name is Bob Ross, who is basically, looks just like Bob Ross, has all of the mannerisms, even has the catchphrases, like, beat the devil out of it, and everything like that, and I think that that's just a little in poor taste. I wish they would have had, like, a similar looking character with, like, a similar name, enough that people would know that it was a reference to Bob Ross without actually, like, hitting people over the head with the reference. I think that would have made it a little bit better. I did enjoy the episode. This episode was pretty fun, and it did have a lot of references to The Evil Dead, and one of my favorite things was that it was like this Antiques Roadshow type of vibe, and Ted Raimi, who is the brother of Sam Raimi, who did the Evil Dead movies, was like, oh, I found this Necronomicon in my basement. I thought that that was pretty funny. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Dead and Breakfast. This episode I really enjoyed. It had Ali Larter in it, who is always great, but it's basically where this brother and sister turn their house into a bed and breakfast. And what makes it interesting is that they believe that their grandmother or their mother or something along those lines, somebody that's related to them who owned the house before them, was the first female serial killer. And she killed a bunch of people in this house, so they're trying to cash in on the true crime craze. And so they invite a influencer, a true crime influencer, to come and stay at the bed and breakfast and kind of just see if it's haunted and like the vibes and stuff. And I just thought that this episode was really fun. It ties in a lot of the things that I'm interested in, true crime, horror, and I just really enjoyed that episode. So that is it for this ranking of all the episodes in Creepshow. Let me know in the comments down below what you would rank the episodes, and if you're excited for season 3. I already watched the first episode, and I was debating on whether I was going to do reviews individually of each episode, but I think I'm just going to do a ranking video like this one at the end of season 3. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.